Today we will reflect on SD 50.11, the Orambagya Sutta. And this is actually the first part of what are called the 10 fetters. Then chapter 12 you have the second sutta on the Udambagya Sutta, that is the higher fetters. So today we will examine what are called the 5 lower fetters. Now, the title of this chapter is actually that of a sutta. Orambagya simply means kind of lower, if you like. It just simply means lower. Udambagya means higher. So the word fetter is not mentioned, but it of course indirectly refers to the fetters. Okay. Now we're on page 88. So what we'll do is I will give you a kind of a summary, a practical summary of the 5 lower fetters. I won't go into the actual sutta. This sutta is quite long, this Orambagya Sutta, as 45.179. The discourse on the lower brackets fetters. This sutta, actually there are a couple of suttas, so you can see the word sutta with a plural ending, the Orambagya Suttas. It is a combination of teachings. They're probably late because they follow the Abhidhamma style. Lots of lists and there's a sequence there trying to show us all the possible combinations of overcoming the 5 lower fetters in terms of the 4 noble truths. So it's a kind of a scholastic kind of sequence, if you like, so that you can reflect on it if you have that kind of inclination on the various aspects of overcoming the 5 lower fetters. But we do not know what the 5 lower fetters are. It can be quite difficult. So I'm going to start with a kind of introduction to the 5 lower fetters. Now, first of all, these 10 fetters, dasa sangyojana, fetters, something that hold us back, like prisoners. It kind of ties us to this world, to samsara. It prevents us from completing the path, in other words. So, in order to attain nirvana, or even to start walking on the path, we have to start breaking these fetters, to overcome these 10 fetters. Now, although there are 10 here, I always like to stress the most important are the first 3. If you break the first 3, then it's just a matter of time. All the other 7 fetters will also be broken. So in an important manner of speaking, to practice Buddhism, especially early Buddhism, is to break the fetters, the 3 fetters, so that we attain at least stream winning in this life itself. So that is very significant in that sense, in practical terms. What are the first 3 fetters? Okay, the first 3 fetters are: number 1, self-identity view, sakkaya ditthi; number 2, spiritual doubt, vicikicca; number 3, attachment to rituals and vows, silabbata, paramasa. So these are the first 3. If you break, you become a stream winner. Now the next 2, they are kind of a pair. They're kind of a contrasting pair: sensual lust, kama raga, and repulsion, patigha. So these are the first 5 fetters. If you break all these 5 fetters, then you attain what is called one's return. Okay. An interesting detail here is that as a stream winner, you have at the most 7 more lives to go. Within the 7 lives, you will somehow overcome, or you break all the other fetters to awaken as an arahant. Of course, 7 lives is kind of a, it's not a fixed number because it depends on your karma. You can be reborn as a deva and have one long lifespan of one whole world cycle. So when even one life is very long, so imagine 7 lives of that kind. So we should never take all these numbers in the arithmetical way, a kind of fixed number, a kind of fixed duration, if you like. So in other words, you will somehow, within this period of so many lives, you will attain awakening. In other words, the kind of life that, or lives that you will lead, having broken the 3 fetters, will always keep you on the path. Somehow, you will not enjoy breaking the precepts. You won't plan to break the precepts. You won't habitually break the precepts. If you do break the precept for some reason, you will kind of know what to do. You will reflect what happened, and then you will kind of correct it. So, in other words, the stream winner and the Vansudana are very strongly grounded in moral virtue. And the wisdom is still not strong, but it's there, it's growing. It's very much based on their understanding and acceptance of impermanence. And they're beginning to understand the nature of non-self and so on. Now, so these are the first 5 fetters. They're called the lower fetters because they hold us back in the lower world, so to speak. The lower world here refers to the sense world, the world of senses, of which the human beings belong. Then you have the 4 lower worlds, and then the various deva realms, the heavenly realms, which are also in the sense world. So we get caught, we still remain in that kind of world. It's not very high, it's lower, so the 3 worlds. So these are the 3 fetters, and the last 4 and 5 altogether, the 5 lower fetters. Now the other 5 very quickly are lust for form existence, rupa raga; lust for formless existence, arupa raga; conceit, mana; and number 9, restlessness, uddhacca; and number 10, ignorance, avijja. Okay, so this last 5 are very interesting. We'll talk about this in the next reflection. Today we'll focus on the first 5, the lower fetters. Okay, let us once again look at the first 3 fetters. As I said, these are the most important fetters for us to break, for us to begin walking on the path. Right now we are not even there yet, so to speak. We can see the path, we are approaching towards the path, but we have not taken the first step, the step on it yet, because we are not yet stream winners. But that's still good, because we do know where the path is, and we are heading that way. So technically, if you have that kind of attitude, you would be called Kalyana Putujana, the good worldling. In other words, we try our best to give the precepts, we try our best to meditate, we try our best to build up our wisdom of understanding the true nature of life, or true reality in general. So for us, if we plan to take the first step on the path, meaning we do not want to be reborn in any of the lower states, we want to be reborn at worst on the human level, and to be born in circumstances where you can continue your practice. You have the Dharma there. Wherever you are born, there is this wholesome possibility to practice. Today you can see, you can be anywhere in the world. If you are in touch with the Dharma and you have some instructions in meditation, you can practice. And the lives to follow after that will also be conducive to your practice in the Dharma, in other words. So that's why we want to break the first 3 fetters. The first fetter is that of self-identity view, sakkaya ditthi. Okay, sakkaya means something to do with this body. Okay, my body, this body. the view that this body is my essence, or I am this body, I identify with this body, this is my body, this is me. Once you have that kind of attitude, then you will get caught with this idea that your body has some essence, either physically or mentally. So this is where we have to understand, reflect on the 5 aggregates. We can look at our body in 2 ways. One is as the 5 senses plus the mind, the 6 senses. That's our body and mind. Of course, the body are the 5 physical senses. Or you can look at this body and mind dichotomy as the 5 aggregates. In other words, we can ask the question, what are we really? We have, if we look carefully at ourselves, examine carefully, number 1, we have a body that's form. And the form is a physical aspect of us, which are made up of the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, wind. And then it's not just this body, it is a body that is conscious. But consciousness is the 5th aggregate, the last. So first is the form. Number 2, we have feelings. Since we have a body, we have feelings. We can sense something we like, we can sense something we do not like. And the 3rd kind of feeling is called neutral feeling, which doesn't fit in this either pleasant or unpleasant feeling. So we have 3 kinds of feelings. Then you have what's called perception. Perception is how we see things, how we recognize situations. Okay? In other words, how do we know this feeling? Well, we recall something in the past and we relate to it, for example. That's perception. And sanya, perception, yeah. And then we have formations, sankhara. So this formation is where you look at any of these perceptions and you start acting on it, either through greed, hate, or delusion. So it becomes karma. It becomes a kind of habit. You become the kind of action that you do. You form views, you form ideas about yourself and so on. So this is formation. Basically, it is karma of body, speech and mind. And all this happen on the stage of consciousness, vijnana. This is the 5th aggregates. And that's all we are. We are form, feeling, perception, formation and consciousness. So if there is ever any kind of thing, essence that we can identify with, it would be in one of these 5 aggregates. Right? You may try to identify, you say, okay, my body is myself, this is what the materialists believe. They believe that we are our body, if our body dies, then everything else dies, and there's nothing after that. That's the common basic materialist idea. Or we can identify with feelings, but feelings change, there's no essence there. We can try to identify with perception, again, perception change, there's nothing there, permanent. We can try to identify with formations or consciousness, all these are changing, so there's nothing really you can identify with. Even we can identify with our breath. We breathe in, you can't hold it too long, you have to breathe out again. What you take in, you must give back. That's the nature of things, the very essence of impermanence, the very essence of life. So it doesn't make sense to have any kind of self-identity view. So it's not really difficult to give up. You need, of course, some understanding of the nature of this body and mind. There are, of course, separate articles on this you can read in the Sutta Discovery series, especially in SD 17. It's all given in detail, the 5 aggregates. And there's another volume on the Nivarana, the hindrances. Okay, I can't remember the volume. What volume is that, hindrances?
32 is on mental hindrances.
Yes, 32. Okay, so you can read up on the mental hindrances in detail, the 5 mental hindrances in SD 32. Okay, now we come to fetter number 2, doubt or spiritual doubt, vichikicha. It's a very interesting word. The word chikicha is the Pali word, or in Sanskrit chikitsa, meaning to be sick. So vichikicha means sick in the sense of being divided up. Okay, so that's called doubt. Here, a kind of speculative mind, doubting a lot of things. It's not really bad to doubt. If something is doubtful, of course we will doubt it, but we should move on to investigate what is this, and then from there wisdom arises. On the other hand, when we talk about impermanence, especially based on the 10 suttas of S25, Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 25, the Okanta Samyutta, there the Buddha talks about impermanence. Impermanence is such a basic truth. We can take it merely on faith if we like. I mean, it's so easy to know things around us are all impermanent. Or we can examine impermanence in greater depth through wisdom. So whether we are of the nature of faith type or wisdom type, these are the two key groups of people. Impermanence is something that is very easily understandable and acceptable. So if we doubt such a truth, you say, no, there must be something permanent, okay, then of course you're going to have problems, because there is no such thing that is permanent, unchanging, in other words. The number 3 is attachment to rituals and vows. This number 3 is a kind of a build-up from the first 2 fetters. When we believe there is a self, we want to preserve the self, we want to promote the self, then we fear, we doubt things that do not promote this idea of I, me and mine, and we try to look for answers outside of ourselves. So we make use of rituals. We think mistakenly that if we perform certain actions repeatedly, we may be safe. A good example is belief in a kind of external agency that could save us, that could help us, a God idea, or a tree spirit, or some kind of magical thing, or good luck, good fortune. In other words, we look for answers outside of ourselves. So what's wrong with that, you might say? The point is this: the problems that we have arise from within us, in our own minds, how we think. If that is the case, how can we look for answers outside of ourselves? How can we get people to tell us, how do I change my mind? How do I overcome my fear, my worries, my stress, and so on? You are letting other people into your mind, and that's a very dangerous thing to do. And this is where you have the guru syndrome, where this very cunning and nefarious group of people, they know how to make use of this weakness that we have. So if you open yourself up to this outside agency and you allow them into your life without yourself working to understand what's going on in your own minds, then you're putting yourself in a very, very grave situation where you lose not only your body but also your sanity and many other things, and no salvation at all, more suffering. So here, in other words, the essence of early Buddhism is look within yourself, right? Close your eyes, see more. In other words, when we close our eyes, we look within, we begin to see the nature of our mind through our breaths. And then we begin to understand the nature of our feelings and perceptions and formations and consciousness, maybe. We begin to let go of all these ideas. We begin to have less doubts and more wisdom, more faith. And we find that we don't need to depend on rituals. Notice here that the term here says attachment to rituals and vows, paramasa, kind of overdoing it, getting caught up with it. simple rituals like bowing down is different. Here it's because you reflect as you bow down, you reflect on the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. It's kind of reminder of some very wonderful qualities. Whereas this attachment to rituals and vows means you believe just by doing some external stuff, some rituals, some prayers, it will free you from suffering. It will bring you awakening. It doesn't work that way. It has never worked that way. Alright, so these are the three key fetters. So if these three fetters are broken, you become a stream winner. Now, when the stream winner is able to cultivate a bit more mindfulness, some meditation maybe, and the stream winner is able to weaken the three unwholesome roots, greed, hate, delusion, especially greed and hate, then they will attain one's return. In other words, next life, this person or this individual will attain awakening as an arhat. So that is why number 4 and 5 is a pair, sensual lust and repulsion. Number 5 is sensual lust, kama, raga. Simply this means over-attachment to our senses, being controlled by our physical senses, by pleasure of the senses, what we see, hear, smell, taste and touch. We get caught up with it. Right? We like to see beautiful things, we like nice food, things like that. So we learn to slowly moderate ourselves. Of course, once you overcome or cut down sensual lust, you also kind of automatically cut down on repulsion. That's why they go together, because they're kind of the opposite sides of the same coin. So repulsion is here kind of a sense of disgust, in a negative way, disliking, hate, if you like. So basically here again is understanding the nature of our sense experiences, that they are impermanent, that we tend to color our experiences based on our past experiences. The world out there is neutral. The world out there is neither pleasant or unpleasant. It is the way it is. It's how we perceive, how we look at the world. So once we have a deeper understanding of this, we break fetters number 4 and number 5 also. So once these 5 fetters are broken, we, in the manner of speaking, overcome psychological suffering, if you like. So from the diagram on page, that is table 0.2, the fetters and suffering, you can see there's kind of a subtext or subtitle. Emotional suffering comprises the first 3 fetters: self-identity, view, spiritual doubt, and attachment to rituals and vows. So in other words, if you break these 3 fetters, you have positive emotions, you become a true individual. And if you break all the 5 fetters, then you overcome psychological suffering. You won't be suffering on account of your senses, so to speak. So you have become a stream winner, or if you break all the 5 fetters, you become a once returner. So do reflect on this teachings here. There are lots of notes here to be read, and you have this long sutta here, and there are also lots of cross references. You can continue reading in some detail on the subject, and most importantly, do all this reading and understanding for the sake of your mental cultivation, not for just knowledge's sake or for argument, but for clearing out our minds, for mental calm and clarity, for meditation and self-awakening. In today's reflection, once again, the Buddha's teaching is very simple. It reminds us to aspire to attain stream winning in this life itself, not to waste any time, because we may forget, we may slow down, we may lose our way. So we just got to keep on reminding ourselves, may I be wise and may I be strong and courageous to aspire to stream winning in this life itself. It is like we are going on a journey. We are caught in a desert. Surely we want to get out of the desert, and we can see in the distance a kind of direction where there is an oasis, or there is this town, the village that we can head for the sake of safety, and to be free from the suffering and danger of the deserts. Reflecting in this way is very good karma, but a virtue of the three jewels, may we be able to cultivate loving kindness for our own well-being and happiness and peace of mind, to continue our practice so that we aspire to stream winning in this life itself. By the same token, but about the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to our loved ones. May they be well and happy. To our family and relatives, those who have been kind to us and supportive of us, may they be well and happy too. And those who are struggling to practice the Buddha's teaching, may they attain awakening in this life itself too. And also those who are struggling, who are lost, may they see the true light of the Buddha's teaching and awaken in this life too. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.